Welcome back to Down to Earth Mystic. This is going to be another video within the Tarot 101 series. In the last video, that was an introduction to the minor arcana in general and more in depth with the suits and elements. And as promised in that video, this one will be about all of the pip cards within the minor arcana. So just a moment and I will change the view to the cards. All right, there it is as promised. Now you'll notice that all of the suits are being represented right now, and that would be with all of the aces of each suit. In addition to that, I just wanted to point out the kind of bonus information, pop quiz sort of deal that we have going on today. The ace and water element has a crystal next to it. That's the shape of a heart. And I'm not going to tell you what any of these crystals are. The pop quiz is to comment below what you feel each crystal is matched up with its suit. And a hint is that the crystal next to the suits and the element would be outside of tarot paired with that element. So we'll get you a closer look. There is the heart shape that matches with the cups and water. And then the next ace is the pentacles with an earth element, and there's the crystal next to it. Keep in mind, this is not necessarily the typical form you're going to see. It's a little more, it's more of a crystal rather than gem quality. And then with the wands and fire, there's the crystal for that one. And last but not least, swords and air. We've got another one there. So, like I said, comment below, just for fun, to see, you know, why not? Quizzing's fun. So, back to the cards. So the aces in general will represent new energy. So they've actually also been somewhat associated with an offer, which you can see visually. All of these elements and suits are being offered with a hand. So sometimes that could be like with the Ace of Cups can be a love offer, and the Ace of Pentacles can be some type of monetary offer. I wouldn't necessarily say job, because that's more so with the Ace of Wands and fire. And then the Ace of Swords, I don't know that I would necessarily associate that with an offer, but more so just gaining clarity. So again, they're all going to be around new energy revolving around the suits. So just a super quick overview so that it makes sense as we're going into the decks a little bit further. Just a reminder that the cups element, or the cup suit or water element, will be focused more around emotions, intuition, the subconscious, and psychic insights. And then and that's this one here. And then the wands will be more focused around action, passion, spiritual pursuits, career, creative projects. The swords, more focused around logic, thoughts, the mind, and communication. And then last but not least, the pentacles, which will be represented more with, or will focus more on all things natural, physical, what you experience using your senses, and financial. So, so bringing it back to the new energy, the cups, Ace of Cups and water element can represent quite a few things. Like I said previously, a love offer, or it could be like fulfillment with your emotions. And I've actually also somewhat seen the meaning, like within a reading, sometimes a meaning has a different light to it, but I've known it as like a self-love, or your cup runneth over, that kind of energy, that kind of feeling. And so then with the Ace of Pentacles, I guess that one's normally seems cut and dry because I guess earth, down to earth, but it does to me feel more like a financial offer, or just something new within that realm of like natural and physical things. And so now the Ace of Wands, I feel like I've felt different meanings for that one as well. Even though it is a new energy, it's I feel like it somewhat also indicates like a renewed passion for something old. So it could be like, honestly, sometimes could be like a fling, or an old flame coming back into your life. So normally I wouldn't recognize, or I wouldn't describe any of the aces as something coming back, but that one's a little different. You'll notice that all four have a similar theme with all of the cards that match in number, but there's generally one that's like an outlier, and I feel like that's the one here. And then back to the swords, which I've mentioned already, is really kind of cut and dry as well, as the pentacles would be the Ace of Swords, because it is around thought, and the air element. I would say, you know, clarity in thought or a new idea, you know, something of the sort. So moving on to the twos. So twos, I guess another keyword, I'm going to try to give you a keyword for all of the numbers so that it's easy to remember. And I actually would recommend, oh, I forgot to mention, I decided not to have multiple decks for this video because we're going through all 4 suits at once, and that would be really confusing to have 4 decks, or sorry, 3 decks in front of us. So you know, that table will be full. I don't know if you'll be able to see all the cards. So if you would like to pause the video and grab your own deck of tarot cards, you can kind of compare the imagery with this Radiant Rider-Waite deck and your own to see the similarities with that. So that's one idea. But back to the Pip cards. And so, oh, there's another thing I left out. The Pip cards, I actually probably should have looked up the reasoning for that term before, but I don't know. I just know that 1 through 10 in the minor arcana would be the Pip cards. So there's that, in case you were wondering. I'm sure Google could help us both out with a little bit more information. But so as far as the twos, I would say that's generally like not really a keyword, but more of like a phrase that represents all of them. It's bringing 2 things together. And so with the Two of Cups, that is commonly known as like the soulmate card, or it doesn't have to be romantic. It can just be 2 souls coming together in union, in a, you know, balanced and respectful and just equal way. So it wouldn't necessarily even be just a relationship. It's deeper than that. It's more like a really deep, solid relationship. All right, so then with the wands, I would say that's generally going to be like a business partnership, or it's something of the sort. Again, I don't want to go too far into the meanings of all these cards because I don't want you to get the impression that you can't intuit your own meaning, and it can absolutely only be what I told you it was. Absolutely not. I mean, you're going to find other sources, you're going to use your intuition, you're going to realize it can mean quite a few different things, but this is just a starting point, a kind of a jumping off point. So business partnership with 2 of Wands, and then the swords. This would be probably the outlier in the twos. You can say it's kind of like the union of you and your mind, like being at peace in your mind. She looks like she's blinded, but she doesn't look stressed. I would say I kind of think of this card as like a card of meditation and going within. So yeah, so maybe that's the union of like your outer world and your inner world, like finding that balance there. And then the Two of Pentacles, that one's going to be more so like kind of like having a lot on your plate and juggling. That doesn't necessarily work around the number 2, but like juggling things and finding balance within potentially 2 areas of your life, we could say. Maybe like home and work or something like that. But it is... balance could also be used in all of these, and that would make this one more of the outlier. So, you know, go with what feels right when you're doing your own readings. So, moving on to card 3 for all of the suits. So, 3 of Cups. Okay, actually, the key word for this, I would say, is very much like a 2, where it's 3 things coming together. So this could be a celebration, a party, a get together, just, you know, obviously there are 3 people here. It is more like, I think celebration is a good way to describe that, but to make the keyword work and make it easy to remember this card next time you see it, I would say 3 things coming together, like in a party. And then, so 3 of Wands. This one I would say is kind of the outlier as what, or again, I would say if you want to really assign something to each of the 3 wands, I would say your idea of what your dreams are. And then quite a few times I've heard of this card as being described as waiting for your ship to come in. So I'd say the 3rd one is actually that ship coming in, but because you're waiting on it, there hasn't really been that joining of the 3 things. It's just more so identifying the 3 things, like your dream, and your fruition of the dream. So again, that one's kind of a stretch for the 3 things coming together, but that is one way to look at it. And so then the 3 of Swords. This one, the imagery is quite blaring there. It has often been referred to as heartbreak, and a card that indicates there's a 3rd party involved in a relationship, which obviously makes that awkward and makes the heartbreak occur. But in general, it really does mean heartbreak, or sadness, or maybe even guilt. Just depends on what the reading is like and what makes sense for you in that reading. Now with the 3 of Pentacles, I would say that's like a collaboration, an idea coming together, you know, things kind of coming into fruition. So it's kind of like the 3 of Wands, but a little bit deeper, because you're actually like your dreams are it's not even really a dream. It's more like the collaboration of values and monetary. There's a monetary flavor to this one, I guess is a better way to put that. It's a collaboration with like 3 or more people that is generally considered successful with this card. So in this one, I would say sometimes you'll notice actually that like these are the feminine suits, which is something we've talked about in the last video. The Cups and the Pentacles are feminine suits, and then the Wands and Swords are masculine suits. And if you ever forget which is which, I'll say this in a code word. These are a little phallic. So it seems like there's kind of a sadness with these 2, and there's like joy with these 2. You'll notice that sometimes the gender, or the masculine and feminine, like pair with their other masculine or feminine within that number. So moving on to 4, and this is another example where, or actually this is an example where they all mean stability, pretty much, and it might be in a negative way, holding on to stability, or happiness and stability. So going into a little bit deeper here, we've got the 4 of Cups, and this card, I'm going to go deeper into the imagery than probably most of the other cards, but you'll see that this guy looks not so happy about life right now. He's looking at these three cups, and this cloud is coming to offer him a fourth one. And it's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like moping. He probably doesn't even see this offer coming in because he's so focused on these three. And so that would be a way to kind of to describe a Four of Cups. It's like you don't see what's coming to you, and it's a good thing, but you got to snap out of it to realize the good that's coming in around you. And then the Four of Wands here, that is again, stability. I would say a lot of readers consider this like a marriage or a wedding, not necessarily involving you, like being at a wedding or in your own wedding. But it is kind of like a stable, solid, good foundation to a relationship as well. Now, another thing I've heard about this card, and don't necessarily discuss it in my readings, but you know, when it comes up, it comes up. But this is known sometimes as the 11 card. So some say, you know, more of a spiritual connection. So then down to the swords here. So stability in this one, I would say we'll take it a little more literally with the suit, but the stability in mind. And you'll notice that he's resting, and it sounds like maybe after that heartache that he had in the Three of Swords, now he's healing. He's resting and healing. So this card actually many times has been referred to as a healing, or, you know, getting that rest that you needed, which you can see in the imagery. And then the Four of Pentacles here, you can see just how tightly he's holding on to that pentacle. He's holding on to it like there's just no chance that any other money is going to come in, so he had better hold tight. It could be being stingy, being like a miser, just really stagnant, I guess. There's no growth, so he feels like he needs to hold on to what he's got. So I'd say these three are kind of stagnant, but this one more in a positive way, and this one is just like, you know, awesome happiness. But moving on to 5. All right, so we've got 5s, and I would say that it's so easy to say 5s are pretty much conflict, because there's like definitely a conflict you can see in all of these cards. No one here looks happy. And so starting with the cups, we've got the sky looking away and actually looking more towards, got his back towards the cups upright, and he's facing more towards the cups laying down, which is a little similar to the Four of Cups, in that he's so focused on something. But in this case, he was so focusing on something he feels is good, so he doesn't see something that may be better. And in this case, he's looking at the cups laying down, so it's almost like the cups are something that makes him so sad that he doesn't realize he also has 2 cups that are doing pretty good. And so this one has been kind of a good phrase for it would be like crying over spilled milk. So an emotional conflict. And so then I do just want to point out again with the masculine and feminine, this is another feminine one, and these two we're going to talk about being internal, and this is more external. But so the Five of Wands is going to be more like a actual, like, probably angry fight, like a fight between the Querent or the Fool or the, you know, whoever the reading is for, and other people. Sometimes you'll see in a Five of Wands, it's not showing in this deck, but sometimes you'll notice 3 people fighting and 2 people kind of off to the side with their wands, and sometimes that means like waiting out the conflict and not getting involved. But this one just seems to be indicating conflict in general. Now with the Five of Swords, That's again going to be a conflict. I don't see the imagery in this one, but I've seen that as represented with swords in the main person in the card's back, like getting stabbed in the back. So again, that would be an external conflict. This one I would say is more like a passionate conflict, like, you know, with anger. And this one is just kind of like, I don't know, feeling left out. No, that's more of this one. But it kind of takes context to really place what this one is. But it can be like maybe even deceit. But regardless, it has people parting ways rather than being deep into the argument. Now with the Five of Pentacles, that's again going to be more of a internal battle, and it'll be kind of like feeling left out in the cold, which is why we see snow in the picture. That's a strong symbolism of feeling like you're left out in the cold, and it could feel like you've just continually been left out of situations. And it does, I don't know, even though being left out in the cold is a good description, I would say also kind of a pity party. I'm not saying that the internal conflict isn't real, but sometimes it's more easily overcome by taking the reins yourself. So then we'll move on to 6. All right, so I would say the key word for 6, I thought hard about this because these 6s go in so many different directions, but I would say the past or influence because of the past. And so what I mean by that is with the 6 of Cups, it can indicate like knowing someone from a past life. It can also indicate soulmate, which obviously is not past, but, or maybe more so like, you know, in the past, the universe planned for you to come together. But it does indicate a very happy time and something from your past life potentially, or soulmate. So 6 of Wands, if you're going to talk about this particular card and not all 6s, I would say a key word for the 6 of Wands would be victory. But the way where past comes in on that one is that you've got your actions from the past have created a good opportunity or a good result in your present. Now with the 6 of Swords, that I would say again is definitely around the past, but more so leaving the past behind and going to better waters, calmer waters, just leaving the heartache and pain and just really bad situation behind, taking control for yourself and saying, no, I'm leaving that behind. Things will be better from here on out. So 6 in general, or 6 of Swords in general, can be kind of like a sorrow card, but it's more than that. That you're taking matters into your hands and deciding, I'm done with that sorrow stuff. Now with the 6 of Pentacles, I would say a key word for this particular card, it would be generosity. So it looks like maybe in the past this guy has done very well. He has remained in integrity, which you'll see I see that with the scales that he's holding. And he's actually giving money to these other people. And so generosity fits that, but I would say it's also kind of doing things well with your finances in the past so that you can share in the present. So these are more like, these 3 are more like, because of the past, this is where you are, and this is kind of like identifying there was a past, like the past, you know, the past life or something like that. Yeah, that could definitely affect you in your current life, but that's where we're at with 6s. Moving on to 7s. And so with the 7s, I I kind of got creative with this one. I'm gonna say the 7s are the 4 Ds because I wasn't sure how else to link them together. And so with the 7 of Cups, we're gonna go with delusion, or more like confusion, but it actually is also kind of like there's so many choices that you have to really go within and find which choice makes the most sense to you. So that would be an emotional confusion, which we're sticking with, obviously, the suits and elements and what those indicate in emotion. So that's going to be, that emotional confusion. With the 7 of Wands, I'm going to go with defense. So you can see how this guy has his wand up, like he needs to defend himself, and he's got these 6 other wands kind of coming out at him. But the good news with this card, I always see that as not just defending yourself, but having the upper hand, so that defense is going to yield a good result. Now with the 7 of Swords, the D for that one would be deceit. And so that could go either way. That could be you deceiving someone else, or someone deceiving you. I guess that's deceive, not deceiving. But so you could be deceiving someone else or someone deceiving you. And you'll see he looks like a thief. He's stealing these swords. So yes, that has also been kind of deemed the thief card. But this is, I wouldn't take that too seriously when that comes up in the reading. Don't consider, oh my gosh, someone's about to steal something or someone has stolen something. It's more so, cards generally can give you more of a heads up to be cautious. But sometimes it could be someone did steal something from you, or someone did you wrong, kind of thing. So, take that as it resonates for the reading. Now 7, I got creative with this one too. So the D for the 7 of Pentacles would be probably diligence. I would say and this is going to kind of pull from the 6s a little bit. In the past, you or somebody was very diligent, and now in the 7, it's more so like a time of waiting, a time of patience, a time of knowing that there's a pause in action, but that's okay because you're in a good place. I'd also consider this like seeds well planted and merely waiting for the opportunity to reap the benefits. So that's 7 for you. Moving on to 8. And so with 8, I'm going to give this a keyword of action, or kind of movement would be another way to describe this. And I know at a glance you're seeing this woman's not moving, but we'll get to that. But so the 8 of Cups, where action and movement come into play with this is, again, we're going to look into like the state of those cups before we look at the guy here. So all these cups are standing upright. So sometimes this could be someone realizing that even though all of the cups they've got going on right now are doing just fine and they're stable, there's just something amiss, something that doesn't make them happy, so they're walking away. But in general, it could also mean walking away from something and knowing it's for the betterment of their life. It's a good decision to walk away from something. Now with the 8 of Wands, I personally see this as a lot going on, a lot of movement, just a lot of action happening, like a ton of things at once. I have recently started to hear some other readers refer to this as communication. So I'm not saying that they're wrong, it's just not what I see in that card. But maybe it means some communication that triggers results, or triggers a lot going on, or triggers some action. I don't know. But just so you know, if you hear that, I mean, everyone has their own opinion, but my basic understanding is this is going to be a lot of good things going on at once. And so with the Eight of Swords, the reason why I pointed this out before we got started on the eights was this woman is blindfolded and somewhat wrapped up in something. She's got swords all around her. She's actually not moving. But the interesting part about that, and so this would be a lack of movement, but the interesting part about that is you'll see like these swords are not all the way around her. She could take her own blindfold off. Sometimes you'll see the person in the card being wrapped up really loosely, but in this case, she could walk out of those swords that she feels are completely surrounding her. So to kind of bring that back to like the element of air and the fact that that is kind of around thought, she is in her own mental prison here. It's perfectly possible to get out of it. So an Eight of Swords is most likely going to indicate you are stuck, but by your own doing. So know that you can get out of it. But just that brings to mind that you most likely, or you most definitely can get out of your own prison that you're putting yourself in mentally. So the Eight of Pentacles, action, movement, I would say in this case learning, and getting to work, working hard, diligently. I don't necessarily see it depicted in this card, but I have heard of this card as indicating going back to school and learning. So onward to the nines. And this video is getting a bit long. I was thinking about breaking it up, but I promised you guys Ace through 10, and that's what I'm doing. So you can most definitely refer back to this often and go forward and backward. Yeah, so onto the nines. So we've got nines, which I noticed a pattern or like a common theme in all of these, and that these people are all by themselves. So my keyword is solo or solitude, but I would say the Nine of Cups, how that falls around solo or solitude is that you've made your own dreams come true. Your dreams are coming true. This can indicate fulfillment of wishes. And then the Nine of Wands, this one I've heard kind of nicknamed as the Wounded Warrior, but most definitely this Nine of Wands guy looks like he thinks he's the only person that he can depend on, and he really needs to defend himself, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're on your own or that no one has your back, but that might still be the feeling that you have. And regardless of if there's any kind of heavy or negative feeling, it can still indicate defending your own beliefs and standing your ground. With the Nine of Swords, this one is, wow, this is the card of insomnia or heavy thoughts, maybe even depression, just like, wow, feeling like when is this going to end kind of feeling. And everyone's going to go through a phase of that, so there's reason for that too. Sometimes when you're in this kind of thought, you can really go down deep, feel your emotions, and find yourself on the other side of it. But without feeling it, it may just always be lurking. So this is kind of being in the depths of it. I wouldn't necessarily go this far, but maybe sometimes this card can indicate a dark night of the soul. But again, it's going to depend on the reading and what other cards are around it. So with the Nine of Pentacles, this woman here is self-sufficient. She is so happy in her financial situation, and it is completely built on her own efforts. So that is a very strong woman or person. I mean, again, these genders have really nothing to do with who the reading could be about. It's really just more of like a feminine energy, because this side is feminine and this side is masculine. So last but not least, we're moving on to 10. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I know this ended up being a pretty long video, but a lot of good information for you to be able to refer back to. Okay, so 10s. I would say completion is the best card, so that's pretty good for the end of this video. But completion. So with a 10 of Cups, you are so emotionally fulfilled. You just feel absolutely complete. This could be finally, finding that perfect person, getting, having a family, whatever it is. It is like the ultimate happiness. With the 10 of Wands, I would nickname this one probably defeat, because he has so many burdens. All these wands are so heavy, and so that actually is also an ending. But sometimes when you feel defeated, or actually this one might be more so defeat. This one's more so, I can't take this anymore. But it can also, both of these can actually be the ending of something, so that something better can come in. It may feel heavy. It may, you may feel like, why do I have to keep doing this? But allow it to end sometimes is the better way to handle that. Now, I know I'm going back and forth because these are both pretty well defined as defeat, but this one is more so like, maybe exhaustion or physical defeat, or he's, just really pushing himself passionately and physically. Now in this one, also defeat, but more so in the mind, and just mentally gone, mentally exhausted. So I mean, it was on the brink of that in the 9 of Swords, but just really finally at that defeat, that more so just accepting maybe that it's an end. Here I think you're probably still trying to hold on to what is trying to end, and then this is more so like actual end. No two ways about it. And then the 10 of Pentacles again is gonna be like ultimate happiness. Like these two and these two are actually pretty similar, but this one may be more like in stability and value and monetary and material things. I mean, yes, it's family too, but it's all things physical. So, I mean, you notice that these people have things all around them. These people have like elaborate things around them. They're in a village sort of looking, or maybe looking out to. And then this one, they're just out in nature sort of. So this would be more like emotional, and this is more like things, ultimate happiness. So that was a long video. Again, thank you so much for sticking with me through it. If you have any questions, please comment below. I'm happy to answer those questions for you. Now this is the end of the Pip cards, but we still have the court cards to go into depth in, so that will be the next video, and that will round out tarot in general. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.